Okay, you're all set.
Thank you. Good morning. It's 9 a.m. We'll call to order this meeting of the Pension Committee. We have a quorum present of Steve Ham, Roger Lord, Rob Mara, Bob Mushkin, Stephanie Manchester Wilkie. And our first item of business is to receive a request for retirement from Sheila Oliveira. Sheila has requested retirement effective the 1st of August of 21 and satisfies the requirements in terms of the pension plan for what will be for her a what's called a late retirement. It is called that because it's later than reaching the age of being able to retire. But otherwise, she's in all respects a normal retirement, and I would recommend that we approve that request. I second. All right.
I make a motion.
Motion's made by Mushin, seconded by Ham to approve the request of Sheila Oliveira to retire. Is there any discussion? I note also that committee member Randall Watt has joined us.
Excuse me.
All right, hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Ham. Aye. Mr. Lord.
Aye.
Mr. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Watt.
Aye.
Manchester Wilkie.
Aye.
And Mushin, aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a request for a disability retirement for Christopher Condon. Chris Condon has been unsuccessful in his attempts to recover from a shoulder injury and has reached the point that shoulder injury was an injury on duty back in 2019, and he now is exhausted the coverage from the trust as a work-related injury, and therefore in keeping with the practice that is started by or part of the MERS process that resulted in state law that says after 18 months, a person must either request retirement or be retired. So he has now requested that retirement. However, his intention is to continue his health recovery routine, including attempting to get different perspectives and opinions, and hopes to return to duty. However, we are frankly without any other recourse at this point, given that he has exhausted the amount of time and therefore the amount of coverage that we have under our insurance. Questions on that?
Is he a fire or police?
Sorry, he's a firefighter. He's a firefighter.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And the injury was sustained in the movement of a patient out of a house. Captain may have more information on that.
I was to understand it was during a training evolution that we had at the station, but maybe.
Okay.
So as I had spoken with you prior, Chairman Mushin, I would like to have some time to look that document over that was sent out to Chris and possibly meet with you regarding this as we had discussed in the past.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. My intention is to gain the pension committee's opinion as to his retirement in order to move forward. I can't, and I only meet once a month, so I didn't want to delay that. But yes, I certainly agree with that.
Are there any questions here that we don't understand? Like he's been through the doctors and the process and all that?
Yes, there's, unlike a situation in which there's a contest or a contested opinion as to whether a person was injured on duty, this is a clear case where he was, it was documented properly, reported, et cetera, et cetera. So that issue is not with us as it has been in some others. This is one where we've run out of time. And obviously we would like to, we would hope that he would be able to be healed and then would return to duty. He is interested in doing that. He's not interested in remaining in a disability pension circumstance at this point.
Are there any
All was done. We're going to retire him on the basis of disability.
Right.
And then he hopes to, what, reapply for employment when he's cured?
Right. As our pension plan says, if we determine that he is no longer either, well, a number of circumstances
Right.
could happen, but if, yes, that's right. He would apply for to be restored to duty. That would depend, of course, upon our then existing manning status, or the council would have to make an exception in order to hire him back. But because he's someone who has a number of years of service available to us and is well established as a firefighter, he would be a candidate we would seek to rehire.
So the pension committee would have a role in approving a disability retirement, but the fire department would have a role in any rehiring decision. It would not involve the pension committee.
Not directly. Indirectly, the pension committee might ascertain that either he no longer, he could be sent to a physician if we believe that there was some need for that, a different physician. We could handle it in that fashion. We could also ask him for his. We will ask him for his annual income, and so therefore we can modify his pension value on the basis of that. But we would not, we as a pension committee would not take the action to offer him employment.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Does he have any medical reports, doctor's reports that support this?
Yes. Yes. That's been reviewed at some length with the trust, and they find it to be, all of that to be in order, and it is they who have precipitated this by saying they are no longer able under their not actuarial, under their
Procedures.
the process that they use for how to offer medical coverage to an active employee. They no longer can do that. So with that statement and with their advice and counsel, I have submitted the papers to the actuary for the calculation of his pension. And I've received those back now, and it is that to which Randy Watt refers to as needing discussions so as to ensure that everyone agrees that this is the right offer that is made to a injured employee, an injured firefighter specifically.
So that information should be brought before the pension committee at some point in the future.
What is that, for instance?
All the information regarding a request for disability retirement.
I don't believe so.
What?
Would that not come under, I mean, the trust and the town council, Chairman Mushin, I believe, has gone through all that stuff with them. If you're going to bring his medical records to the pension committee, I would think that he would have to sign some kind of HIPAA release for that type of thing.
Well,
We don't make the decision whether he's disabled or not. The doctors do.
No. Well, that's what I mean. Steve wants to see his, I believe that's what he's asking for. He wants to see his medical records, and I'm not so sure that that's that's legal without his permission.
Yeah, that's not our role to make medical decisions. And we know what the financial decision is because he's an active, on-duty, injured person. So we know he'll get 66 2/3 or whatever it is.
It's 68%.
68, right.
Back in 2002,
Yep.
whenever it was, we decided that that's how it would be at 68%. And
Right,
there's
no COLA.
Go ahead.
Without a COLA?
And there's no cost of living adjustment. That's correct.
Except that that was subsequently challenged.
By an individual who said he was not subject to it. We have now retired 2 individuals who do not receive a COLA, and there's been no challenge to that. So that is now our policy and has been since 2007.
Okay.
I think the issue is we still have this open-ended where our disability doesn't end at 65. So he continues to collect disability beyond his retirement, normal retirement, which is not the standard that usually exists with disability payments. Disability usually ends at your normal retirement date or 65.
Which is when Social Security disability would kick in?
No, Social Security disability ends at 65. There is no Social Security disability after 65.
Okay.
There are no corporate disability policies that go beyond 65. Because when you think about the concept of disability, it's replacing your salary during your working years. And they assume that people will retire at 65 and that either your pension plan or your savings then take. But we have this open-ended, he could be 100 and still collecting 68% of his salary on disability.
So
I believe that is covered under the state statute.
Right.
And I do believe that it does say that he gets that. Actually, I think the documents that I saw that Bob sent to him says that he gets it for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Which is unusual.
But I believe that that's covered under the statute.
Right.
Rob, you have raised this question before, and I don't think we've satisfactorily answered you. If I were to summarize it, I would say it this way, and you tell me if this is what you're saying. In the private sector, a person's disability pension ends at age 65.
And Social Security.
What?
And also Social Security.
Social Security disability.
Social Security disability ends at 65.
Yeah.
Normal corporate disability policies end at 65.
Right. But I was about to say, and at age 65, a person begins to draw Social Security benefits.
Or their normal retirement.
And potentially, and their normal retirement.
Right.
Right?
I think what normally happens is when you're on disability in the corporate world and for Social Security, you are accumulating years of service.
All right.
So I don't think our state pension plan statute lets them continue to accrue years of service.
Okay. Well, let me suggest that we move this to the next meeting for discussion because I think it's very important that we understand it. It's certainly not applicable at the moment.
Right.
But it's applicable in the future.
Yes.
If our plan is not properly structured for whatever reason, we need to fix that.
Yeah, I think Randy's right. It's in the last time we looked, it's in the state statute.
Well, there is a state statute that says that, but it's applicable specifically to firefighters. And our plan does not discriminate in disability, I don't believe, sufficiently to accommodate a different policy for non-firefighters. We simply, to your point, continue disability coverage until a person dies.
Mm-hmm.
And that may not be applicable to all people that are retired with a disability. I'll say it that way.
Right, because if you think about the concept, disability means you can't work, but you may be able to come back to work. But if you're 100 years old, you're not going to be coming back to work. Why are you still on disability?
Right. I understand your point, and I believe that it is one that we should review and repair in our document. And I'll take that for discussion with the actuary and come back to you with what their response is. But again, this thing happens so episodically, once in several years.
Right.
It does not apply in this case. What applies now
Yes.
is we're comporting with the law as it is in Rhode Island. And we have a person who is, at this point, wishes for himself to be cured and healed of this problem, and then he'd like to return to work. So it's a good situation that we are in at the moment, but it's not one that we should leave unreviewed.
Agreed. I make a motion that we accept the application for disability.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right.
Is that motion subject to further review?
No.
What do you mean?
Well, that the pension committee meet and look at all these issues, because it sounds like we should be making some change.
It wouldn't affect this case anyway, because we'd be making changes.
And we continue to pay the individual a full salary and count him on our books. And we no longer wish to do that. We wish to move him into.
I know, but once we put him on disability retirement, theoretically, no matter what he says now, he can stay on there till he dies.
Not
correct.
Not if we act in what context? In other words, that's his only source of income. We will be asking.
Well, his only source of income within the stipulations that the pension committee regulations have stated, he can earn X amount
Right.
outside. But I think once you got him on disability, I think he could stay there. As Rob has said, until.
But even if we change the plan, it wouldn't affect him.
No ability to continue to cover his employment, and yet he's not working. I've got to retire him so that I no longer have him on the books as an employee of the town, so as to be able to move on with a properly constituted fire department force. His absence is no longer, we had hoped that his absence would be temporary.
Correct.
He had hoped that it would be temporary. It's not,
Right.
at least at this point.
Right. And that's my point. Theoretically, once he's on disability, he could continue there forever.
I acknowledge, that's hypothetical.
So that means we have to change one of the policies.
That's also acknowledged. My
Yeah.
point is, none of that will affect this decision today.
Right.
Changing the policy cannot change what we do
True,
for this particular applicant.
true.
So I think it gets more complicated, because if we did change it, the reasonable thing to do is to give people on disability years of service towards their retirement. So all the people that are on disability that are over 65, what, 1 or 2 that we have, they probably have to be given we'd have to look at what comes out better. Are they better off on disability, or are they better off now retiring?
Okay,
In the normal world, you don't have the choice. 65, you're retired. But since these people were disabled under a different statute, we're not going to be able to change the people that are already on disability
correct,
without their agreeing to it.
correct.
I think that that may be something that we should possibly get a legal opinion on as well,
Yes,
because you're not in the private sector, you're in the municipal sector.
right.
You're not,
I mean, we wouldn't do it without we wouldn't be able to do it without their agreeing to it.
But I still think trying to change the plan should,
Yes.
we should have some kind of legal opinion that could happen,
Right.
because we can't change our pension plan and then have the statute say something different, even if it's, even if it is fire, police, or, one of the town workers falls into the hopper at the transfer station and gets hurt. I just think we should have some kind of a legal opinion on that before we go change anything.
Yes.
Well, I agree with that.
All right, let's carry this no further in terms of making decisions, since it's not a matter before us on our agenda. I have no problem with
Right.
talking about it, but we're starting to close in on, so this is what we should do. And this
Yeah.
is not something that's been warned. And so I take all of your comments and I'll propose to put it together in a statement that I can circulate to add it to the next agenda.
Okay.
Meanwhile, we have a motion to approve his.
Well, that's what we're in the business of, is we're in the business of discussing the motion. Is there any other comment on the motion?
When would I noticed in the packet that you had his retirement date as of April 1. Is that still the retirement date, or how, we haven't really, nothing's been signed off on yet or anything? I just saw the date that you had there as April 1.
Correct. That's the figure that I put into the request when I put it in over a month ago, in an effort to get the facts on the table as to what the cost would be. So as to when it actually begins, that's subject to his determination, and it can be subject to our determination if you wish.
Okay.
But the motion is to approve the request for retirement. Is there a reason that you would want to amend the motion to allow flexibility in the date, or what's the point of your comment?
Well, he just got the packet on Friday on that date. And I don't think that, because as I said, I would like to have a meeting with you and our representative to sit down and go over that, which, I just didn't know if you were going to basically make that position open on the 1st, or we were going to do it on May 1st or April 15th, or how you were planning on doing it.
I'm planning on hearing the result of this motion, and then I'm planning on hearing from the applicant as to his readiness to retire, and then establishing a retirement date was my intention.
Perfect. All right.
Is there further discussion?
Well, the motion to give them disability retirement now, we can make that subject to some future date to determine when it would begin.
We could. I would prefer to have the flexibility to execute it as soon as with the authority of the pension committee, I would like to execute it as soon as we can so as to enable us to hire behind him to put another employee in his place.
But, okay, that's fine. However, are we setting any precedent? In the sense that some existing or future employee tries to follow the same route as this and say, okay, I've been, 2 years or whatever, unable to work. The trust isn't going to cover it. So now we have this precedent where the pension committee has said, okay, we'll give you disability retirement. And then some future existing or future employee tries to follow that same route. We don't want to have a situation where we've got a bunch of retired with disability employees, if you will.
Right.
So my point is there any precedence being set here by agreeing for this individual to do it this way? And does that constrict us in the future as to how we handle other people who might attempt the same thing?
Well, what is he attempting? He's not attempting anything because he's been through the process.
At my request, he's following the process for retirement so as to be able to move him into a retired status. And he's disabled by an injury on duty, therefore his retirement status is disability pension. We've got the other conversation that we need to have with respect to, do we have any way of that ever being terminated or changed in the future of a person's life when they move out of a working status and into a typical retired status? Does that then, that question we haven't resolved here. This doesn't appear to me to be subject to anybody being able to emulate it in that he hasn't done that. He's not trying to do something with the system given.
No, but he's saying, I wish to be cured. They can't cure me yet. So I'm going to go on this disability retirement and I'm going to attempt to get back and be healthy, medically speaking.
I would agree, except that I'm the initiator with him of the request to retire. He's not requesting to retire. He's reaching a point where he no longer can continue in the status he's in without retiring. He needs to retire.
Well,
If we keep doing this and the worst happens for him, 5 years from now, he'll continue to be without shoulder capability. We will continue to carry him in a injured on duty status with overtime payments, et cetera, to all the, so we've reached a point where we can't continue this without him retiring. He needs to retire.
I understand that in this instance. And my question is more about, are we setting a precedent such that in the future, someone who lives the body and gets injured, and we have the same situation.
I believe that Bob has made the statement that the precedent is through the state statute, and we can't, we have to follow that state statute.
Yeah, but if I'm understanding, you're approaching this from a perspective of what if someone else uses this as precedent for his or her actions?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, if they satisfy these same set of things that came to this point, that's how we would handle that one too. We're obviously.
Right, so we would be setting a precedent.
But the only precedent is the fact that we're once again comporting with all of the requirements of our pension plan and of the state statutes that say how long a person can be in an injured on duty status without action being taken.
Uh-huh.
So I don't, unless that statute changed, I don't believe, and that would change our mind. And frankly,
Well, statutes change all the time.
right, but this individual and his circumstance, if it were replicated exactly, should have the very same outcome. I would argue perhaps even a few months earlier, given that as soon as he approaches 18 months, we say, that's it, we're finished. And so that would be the only difference. I don't think this sets an adversarial precedent from the town's perspective. I
Just
don't,
follow the process. We're not setting a precedent. We follow the process. He's
Correct.
entitled to the benefit based upon the process.
Yeah, but the process here has been initiated by some kind of terms of agreement between the trust covering medical expenses for a certain period of time. And though that period can change
yes,
over time, in which case we have another decision to make. Do we want to continue with, paying the costs of the trust, et cetera, or, that aspect of the trust?
well, this is our equivalent of workman's compensation insurance that we
Right.
receive from the trust, called work-related injury insurance. So we have exhausted our work-related injury insurance period.
But that was a clause that was negotiated between the trust and the town.
Yes, in all of the towns in Rhode Island, yes. It is the method by which all
Okay.
are insured. Yeah.
Well, what's the alternative if we don't approve this?
I know of no alternative other than to continue paying overtime to a additional firefighter for as long as it takes, none, for eternity.
So we don't have an alternative. We follow the process.
Well, isn't the alternative to make this motion flexible enough that we can change it in the future?
The plan gives us the authority to withdraw a disability retirement from someone under certain circumstances or to reduce it.
Yeah.
I don't think this abrogates that authority at all. I think we retain that ability to say, for instance, you are now working for another, let's use a crazy example. You're now working for another fire department and continuing to draw this pension.
Okay.
We have in our pension plan the provisions necessary to change what a person receives. Yeah, I don't think we're sacrificing any future options, and I also don't think this sets a precedent negatively in the sense that, oh, I didn't realize you could do that. I'll go injure myself and see if I can get,
Right.
I don't think it's vulnerable to that.
Well, okay, I'm just a little nervous about approving today a designation of injured on duty disability that cannot be changed somehow in the future.
I understand that. The injury on duty is not the role of the pension committee, and it is unchallenged. There is no one who has argued, town or individual or union or anything else, that it was other than an injury on duty. Therefore, he is eligible for a disability retirement. That disability retirement's future depends upon certain facts that we don't know yet. And when they're established, we can change the decision that we're making today that he receives a disability retirement of.
Oh, all right, we can change that.
We can, if we find that, if we find, we found that there was fraud, if we found that there was
Yeah.
repair of the body, if we found that he was able to earn a living without it, and all those sorts of things are all built into our plan.
Okay,
All right,
so.
any other comment? I'll ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer,
Aye.
Mr. Watt,
Aye.
and Chester Wilkie,
Aye.
and Mushin, aye. All right, thank you. The next item of business is approval of the minutes of the 1st of March.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Who was the second, Mr. Mauer?
Yes.
Any discussion there? A roll call vote on that. Ham,
Aye.
Lord,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Watt,
Aye.
Manchester Wilkie,
Aye.
Mushin, aye. At the risk of adding, I would like you to think about the following. We need, in the future, I'm going to withdraw that. Let me work on what you've already given me. We have things that I would like to continue to work on in the pension plan, and appreciate your efforts today to point out where we need to make changes already. The date of the next meeting is the 3rd of May, which is the first Monday in May. Expect to still be doing that in this manner. Is there any other matters before the body?
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock on the 3rd of May. All right, hearing none, I will declare the meeting adjourned and appreciate